Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we sit down with successful attorneys, legal innovators, and business leaders to explore what it really takes to build a thriving firm. We go beyond the courtroom to discuss leadership, profitability, operations, marketing, AI, and the strategies that help firms grow, scale, and create lasting value. Whether you're a managing partner, an emerging firm leader, or simply passionate about the future of the legal profession, our goal is to provide practical insights you can put to work immediately. Today, we are welcome to honor Chadrick Mance. Chad is the founder of the Mance Law Firm, a personal injury firm based in Savannah, Georgia. He's dedicated to representing individuals and families who have suffered catastrophic injuries due to negligence of others. Beyond his courtroom work, he is recognized nationally as an educator and thought leader in the plaintiff's bar. He regularly lectures at some of the country's premier trial lawyer conferences, including Mass Torts Made Perfect, the National Trial Lawyer Summit, and TBI Med Legal, where he shares his insights on trial strategy, traumatic brain injury, litigation, and complex personal injury cases. He's also served as an adjunct professor at Morehouse College, teaching plaintiff advocacy, and he's been deeply involved in civic leadership, including serving as president of one of Georgia's largest NAACP chapters. Throughout his career, he has combined legal advocacy with a passion for social justice, believing that law is a powerful tool, and as he puts it, to make society's crooked places straight. Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
Hey, I like to start out with folks' origin stories. So how did you get from, let's say, high school to where you are today?
Well, I grew up in a very small town, nestled in the foothills of the Northeast Georgia mountains. And it was a very conservative, uber religious kind of population. About 13% of the population was the population of difference, we'll call it. And I learned very quickly how to navigate places of difference, of cultural difference, ideological difference, and so forth. And so in that space, I became a child that would identify with people across demographics. So I had friends of all kinds of philosophies and ilks and backgrounds. Well, growing up, my parents believed that public speaking was really important, and knowing kind of civic history and civil rights was important. And so at a very young age, they had me begin talking to groups of 100 or more, giving public speeches. Maybe they were about Dr. King, or they were about the importance of civic engagement, or what have you. And so by the time I had turned 18, I'd already given 100 speeches to groups of 100 people or more. And so very early, that ability to kind of speak to groups and connect with people was developed very strategically by my parents. And so it kind of naturally dovetailed into becoming a trial lawyer. I went to Morehouse College, became student body president. Morehouse College, left Morehouse College, graduated, of course, with academic honors, went to the University of Georgia Law School. While I was there, a professor who is kind of a thought leader in evidence in Georgia took me under his wing, and I studied underneath him. And also while I was at Georgia, we had won the largest single invitational trial advocacy tournament in America. And so there were little nuggets along the way that kept saying, you need to be a trial lawyer. You need to be a trial lawyer. And those are just a few of the things that reinforced where I am today.
What a great gift that your parents gave you in pushing you to speak publicly and feel comfortable so that, I mean, really what you do is all about storytelling anyway. And the
Yeah.
fact that you had all those reps before you were 18 years old just gave you the skill set to do what you do today. That's incredible. So
Yeah. What were you saying,
I,
John?
I know that you are extremely active on social media. You're on TikTok, Instagram, not so much on LinkedIn, but recently your following has exploded. Can you talk about that and explain that or what it feels like?
Well, we're and this is very recent. This was as of yesterday. So Friday we had put out a video on the Nolan Wells case, and that video has since between Friday and today gone to 1 million views or more.
Wow.
That caused our following to go from real small 3,000 folk following of our firm to now 11,000 people in 3 days. And of course, our views over the lifetime of our firm have exploded as well. And so, what virality feels like is something totally foreign. It is you have to scale your marketing presence immediately. The things that you think you can post when you have a 3,000 person following, you cannot post when you have 11,000 people following you. I learned that yesterday. And the gravity, I think, of what you're doing changes a bit. You do elevate, and we're figuring out how to do that now. And so, hey, look, once we're done navigating it, I'll let you know how it panned out. We're making some good strides, but we're also finding our way and jumping over hurdles too. So it's all experimentation at this point.
Well, I hear what you're saying. That there could be some negatives with some naysayers out there taking pot shots, but any visibility that can boost the visibility of your firm in the community has to be a good thing, although it has some of its drawbacks.
Yeah, generally, the old adage, all publicity is good publicity, generally tends to be true.
It
Because
just
if
can be a little
somebody's
painful.
right, exactly, bingo,
Hey, so AI is here to stay. And 2 years
absolutely.
ago, there were two camps of attorneys, some that thought it was the death of the profession. Now, more folks seem to be embracing it. And I think that's a good thing because if we use it ethically, it can be very helpful. So, how do you feel about AI and how is your firm using it? Any use cases that you have that you think are really good?
So I want to talk generally about the philosophy behind AI. There is an urge to make AI sort of quasi replacement for the intellectual rigor and the you know hard work that goes into lawyering. It's not meant to do that. It's meant to be an accelerator. It is meant to 10x your law firm. It is meant to allow you the creative and intellectual space to wrestle with the problems. And so the way we conceptualize AI is that AI is a really smart new associate that's really quick, but AI makes mistakes. And so while AI may not make as many mistakes as we um, once thought it would, because it's evolving, all it takes is one mistake and it can end your career. And so you do need to check what AI is doing. You do need to be very careful about your prompts, and you do need to have a plan and a protocol about how you are using AI in your firm. I recommend that you use it, as often as you can in a controlled way. You don't need to give it access to all of your information, all of your client information, or any client information if it's not protected, right? And so we have to know what we're feeding it. We have to control how it's being fed. We have to have a process for how we're deploying AI. But AI is not a substitute for creativity. Instead, it's a creativity booster.
I completely agree. And the human oversight is very much needed. And I love you drawing this back to likening AI to a new associate because New associates, they're smart. They came out of law school, but they don't know what you do. And it takes a few years to bring them up to speed. And you can use AI for those repeatable, mundane things, but then the human has to come in and take that information to the next level in the case.
Right.
When I was very early on in my accounting career, I made the mistake of doing some work papers in pen, and the partner called me in and he goes, "Hey, I make 50 mistakes a day. That's why I use a pencil with an eraser." He goes, "How many mistakes do you think you make?" So I'm like, I got the message. There's no more pens unless I'm signing a letter.
Yeah.
Hey, you speak nationally on traumatic brain injury litigation. What makes those cases uniquely challenging, and why are they often misunderstood?
So TBI cases really are the next level injury cases when it comes to single event cases. Let me tell you why. A good TBI case is going to require an interdisciplinary approach to determine what really happened. When somebody hurts their brain, all kinds of systems can be affected. Their endocrine system can be affected, their eye systems can be affected, their smell, olfactory systems, their taste can be affected. Hearing, we see tinnitus as a problem. Heads, of course, hurt. All kinds of balance, for example, nausea, vomiting. And so what it calls for on the medicine side is that you really know how to distinguish between, oh, is this a regular ear problem, or is it tinnitus from a brain injury? Oh, is this an eye issue that has been there for a while, or did this come as a result of an impact to the head? Or wait a minute, where was the brain injury? Did it happen in the frontal lobe, or did it happen at some other area? And so brain injury cases are very complex. They are very easily defensible. And so you have to be very careful. And really, the intake process is so much more important in a TBI case because the symptomology begins to change over time. When you get somebody in for that TBI, you need to have an intake packet just focused on how do we determine the symptomology, when it began, and who is witnessing it. Because the lay witnesses also are an important anchor to a TBI verdict, whether it's up or down. And so you have poor lay witnesses, poor before and after witnesses, you're going to have a poor result. And so TBI cases are extremely challenging. They are very rewarding. You can make a huge impact, but I think you've got to treat them with a certain level of gravity.
A couple of things on the TBI intake. Uh, your intake process, does it involve people with a medical background evaluating those facts and circumstances?
No, we have a packet that we developed in conjunction with some experts, and we basically go through all of the potential symptomology and medical history that would be relevant at that stage. Now that packet, you know, for example, parts of it might change. So today, there may be a brain injury that results in headaches, but the headaches might go away, 4 months from now. And so then we've got to do another revised version of that so we can track the symptomology over time. But we've got it distilled to about 23, 25 pages of checklist related material that we think is very thorough and that gives us a good basis in determining whether a TBI might exist or not.
So, on average, what's the average length of a TBI case? And I know it
Yeah.
varies greatly, but
Well, it's going to depend a lot on the judge. You may have a judge that'll get you docketed in 2 years, 24 months, 18 to 24 months is the average in at least our state of Georgia. But some judges are outliers. For example, if they're part-time judges, I've heard of one judge that takes in excess of, 6 years to get on a docket. And
wow.
so we're really jurisdictional dependent on that. There's no way to say it'll take this amount of time. But what I can tell you is we try to file them as quickly as we can for those reasons.
Do these cases typically go to litigation, or do they settle prior to?
I litigate mine. Now, I know plenty of folks, and I have settled a few, but I litigate almost. I file to because I don't think you get real value until you begin that actual process. If you know the coverage is there, if you know the injuries are there, of course, you've got certain predicates, at least in the state of Georgia, to be able to establish bad faith. You want to maybe send a preliminary demand so that can be satisfied later, but we file as quickly as we can.
Well, the reason I ask is because the plaintiffs are in this traumatic, catastrophic loss, and they can't work anymore. They've got bills to pay. So there's a whole economic situation for them. In addition, there are a lot of case costs that need to be paid. So how do you, as a firm, handle those case costs? And then is there any relief for the plaintiff? And I know there were years ago, there were predatory lenders out there that would lend money to plaintiffs. And I think people have gotten a little bit better on that. But what solutions do you have for plaintiffs with respect to getting some money during that 2 to 6 years when they could be in litigation?
Well, of course, you're going to have TBI situations that vary. You're going to have the ones that are clear, that are the severe.
Hey, Adrian, I think we lost him.
I see it looks like we have lost Chadrick chat. Unfortunately.
Can y'all see me? I had
Yeah,
a
he's
call
back.
come in.
All right, let me remove myself once more.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Hopefully, he won't call back. But so you've got different grades of TBIs. For the severe ones, if it's deeply catastrophic, that might settle. But for the ones where you're kind of like you're in the miserable minority. You're walking, talking, almost looking normal. Those are the ones that require a lengthy fight, and it doesn't make sense to try to resolve them without maximal pressure. Again, we send a demand. If they blow that demand or don't meet the elements of it, it opens up the door to bad faith, where there is no insurance that we're really worried about at that stage. And then we will institute the litigation as quickly as we can. And so during that time, we always tell our clients, whatever you do, try to go without getting a settlement loan. Try to go without getting any kind of financing. The reality is a lot of those clients have to. And so when that takes place, first of all, you need a vendor that you work with that you trust, that is not going to oversell. And then you take the least amount that you can take under those circumstances. And we kind of try to move things forward in that way. Most judges where I am will entertain a letter inquiring about a trial date, but that will not necessarily prompt them to set you for a trial date. And some judges might get, perturbed at a letter. And so you've got to know your judge and know what you can do to expedite a trial, if there is anything. And so we tell our clients early what to expect, and we try to prepare them along the way for the long haul. But it's not always easy, and sometimes you do have to get some relief here and there. But we try to avoid it because, of course, the interest rates tend to be higher.
Yeah, and I know you're a social justice guy, and my daughter is an attorney, and she's a social justice warrior. I was at a conference earlier this year and talked to a couple of the lenders, and one of them referred to them as a social justice lender. And I was just chuckling. My daughter would have had a field day with this guy, because it was still 18% interest. But the reason it was socially justice in their mind was they capped the interest at a year. I'm like, okay, that's still not really a great deal.
Right.
Hey, you've built an impressive legal career, and you've invested heavily in leadership outside your practice. Why has leadership beyond your law firm been so important to you?
Well, I think I was just born with that knack. My parents certainly instilled that in me early, but I think I had a natural inclination and predilection to leadership. It is in me. If I see something that's just not right, I have got to do something at some point. And so I think it is etched in who I am as a human being. So is community and helping people. That's there. I can't sit by and watch somebody suffer and not do anything. So is being a fighter. I think I always find myself fighting to right something that's going on around me. And so I think it's just been following who I am as a human being that has led me to those spaces.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the business of law. And you've built a successful firm. If you look back, let's say you're talking to some young firm owners, some people that have just gone out and started their own firm. Give me a couple things that you would do different from the start in creating a new firm.
Well, marketing makes the way. Marketing makes the way. Management refines the way. Lawyering makes your legal reputation. But marketing is going to make the way for everything else. And so your first thing you should do when you get up in the morning is think, how am I marketing? How well am I marketing? And what is the ROI? How in the world am I improving from what I did yesterday? And if you focus on that relentlessly, your firm is going to grow way more than other folks. The management comes in second to marketing. Once we figure out how we're going to bring in cases and we got them there, we've got to figure out how to effectively get to from A to Z in as little steps as possible. Plaintiffs' lawyers are snipers. We are not machine gun bearers, is what I say. And then, of course, once you've got your management and marketing together, we have to figure out how we apply legal skills within the context of the management and marketing. But we often reverse that. We say, my legal skills will make the way for management, which will make the way for marketing. Wrong. You must consider marketing, then management, then the application of your legal skills. And if you put them in that order, you'll do well much faster than your.
He called back.
It looks like he called back.
He did. He did.
So hopefully he'll come join us on the stage here after the call. Let's see if he'll join us again, or if maybe he is gone forever. We don't know.
Can you hear me, guys? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
sir.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
People keep calling my cell phone. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'll
Um,
remove myself again.
And it's random people today too, so it's not like
Well, hopefully they're watching on LinkedIn Live and they're going, "Hey, I see you on LinkedIn."
yeah. Nevertheless, yeah. So you got to put them in that order. You got to focus on your marketing, and then your management, and then your lawyering. They're all pretty important, but if you get that out of order, you are arresting the development of your firm.
I love it, and I would add the one thing is, so you've got the marketing, you got the people and processes, and then the lawyering. Where we come in is helping you assess the data and having good, clean data, knowing what your cash position is, knowing what you need over the next 6 months. And so if you have that, you can do all those other things and continue to grow and scale. So let's start, before we get to Georgia and the dogs, let's have a few rapid fire questions. One book every lawyer should read. You got a recommendation?
One book every plaintiff's lawyer should read is You Can't Teach Hungry. I've got a ton of books, actually. So
No, I'm going to have to pick that one up. Favorite AI tool today?
Claude.
Okay. Habit that made the biggest difference in your career?
Getting up, starting work at 5:30 in the morning every day.
Oh, a morning person.
Yeah.
I'm more of an evening person. One thing every plaintiff lawyer should stop doing?
holding on to bad clients.
Great thought. All right, let's talk about Georgia football. I'm a Mizzou guy. We play each other this year.
Indeed.
We usually play you well for 3.5 quarters.
Indeed.
And then the wheels fall off. But it's a new era, and I think you guys you're kind of like Alabama was a few years ago. You've been the big behemoth for years.
Right.
Although the only thing I'm unified in with you on Go Dogs is we got to wrestle the national championship back from the Big Ten. The Big Ten is a big fraud. It's got 2 teams in it, and who knew Indiana would be one of those 2 teams? But we've got to get it back to the SEC, and I don't care if it's Vanderbilt that wins it, but I'm tired of the Big Ten. So what's your over-under on number of wins for Georgia this year?
I have refrained from that because every time I say something, it is totally wrong. And Georgia is like, every time I start with high hopes, my hopes are eroded, and then Georgia comes back. And so I just want to kind of sit back and watch the Dogs work. I think this year will be a good one, though. I think we've had some good picks. We've got a lot to prove this year in ways that we haven't in other years.
Well, we are about less than 60 days away from the greatest time period of the year, where
Indeed.
Football starts again Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday. It's awesome.
Right.
Hey,
it is.
Before we wrap up, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you or your law firm?
Well, you can always reach us on Facebook. You can reach us on Instagram. My firm is the Mance Law Firm, MANCE like performance. I'm always going to conferences talking. If you see me there, hit me up. I believe in lawyers. And so I think we're part of a fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call it, a brotherhood and sisterhood. And anything that I can do to help another lawyer, I'm going to do, because that is the lawyer's creed. And so if you see me around, if there's anything that you think I could be helpful with, let me know. Because when one of us does well, all of us do well, especially in the plaintiff's practice. I just want to thank you, John, for having me on. I want to thank everybody for watching. And I want to encourage us to continue to share information, because information is not just power in what we do, it's progress. So thank you.
Well, Chad, thank you for joining us today. And thanks to all our listeners for tuning into Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Better yet, share this episode with another law firm leader who could benefit from today's discussion. Our mission is simple: to help law firm owners build stronger businesses, better serve their clients, and create firms that thrive for generations. Until next time, I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for Law Firms. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.